Should you buy the cheapest brand new all-wheel drive SUV on the market? That's what we're going to find out. Welcome to Car Help Corner. And that's right, not only am I test driving the cheapest new SUV you can buy, but also the oldest one. A vehicle that's basically stood still with time for the past 15 years. And just to give you an idea of how outdated this vehicle is, let me show you a few features. A physical key that you actually have to turn to start the engine. Buttons for basically everything. 3 simple dials for adjusting your heat and air conditioning. A mechanical e-brake handle. And a super affordable price tag that you just rarely see these days. This vehicle has a base starting price of just under $27,000 US. And all-wheel drive is standard, which is somewhat unusual because in Canada, all-wheel drive is actually optional on the base model. The base front-wheel drive version has a starting price just over $27,000, and if you add all-wheel drive, the price starts at just over $29,000. But just because a vehicle is very simple, basic, and somewhat old school doesn't necessarily mean that it's worth passing on. So what exactly do we have here? Well, this is the Mitsubishi Outlander Sport, as it's known in the US, or the RVR in Canada. Mitsubishi also calls it the ASX in some other markets, but essentially it's the smallest, most affordable vehicle that Mitsubishi sells in their very tiny 3-model lineup, which also includes the very similar sized Eclipse Cross and the Outlander, which is their biggest, most expensive model. Yes, unfortunately, Mitsubishi has a rather sad lineup of vehicles in North America, which is just one sign of all the trouble that this company has. And another sign of that can be seen with what this vehicle is like to drive. The standard engine is a small, naturally aspirated 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, which has basically been around for around 2 decades now, first introduced in the Mitsubishi Lancer back in 2007. This engine only produces 148 horsepower and 145 pound-feet of torque, and it comes matched to a continuously variable transmission, or CVT. Now, the CVT does make some attempt to pretend like it's shifting gears to give this vehicle a somewhat normal feel, but there's just no disguising the fact that this is a very underpowered vehicle that really doesn't have much performance at all. You put your foot into it and it is loud, crude, unrefined, and it really takes quite a bit of time to get moving. I mean, just take a listen to it when I put my foot down. Yeah, that really doesn't do a whole lot of anything except make quite a bit of noise. Now, if you're willing to spend more money, the higher trims do come with a slightly more powerful 2.4-liter 4-cylinder engine that makes around an extra 20 horsepower and 20 pound-feet of torque. But it really doesn't improve the performance that much, and the fuel economy is basically the same either way. So I say just stick with the base engine and accept it for what it is. And yeah, for being such a small engine, the fuel economy is really nothing spectacular. This vehicle is only rated between 22 to 29 miles per gallon, or roughly between 8 to 10 liters per 100 kilometers, which is really not that great. And it's a pretty similar story when it comes to the rest of this driving experience. The interior is pretty loud and there's quite a bit of road noise, especially at higher speeds. And even though the suspension comfort is okay, it's not exactly the best at absorbing the sharper bumps in the road. And that's with this base model with the 16-inch wheels, which have thicker profile tires. I don't even want to know what one of the higher trims are like that have the larger 18-inch wheels with very thin profile tires. So obviously, so far I'm finding it a little bit challenging to find positive things about the way this vehicle drives. But I think the simple way is to put it like this. If you're not expecting too much in terms of handling, comfort, power, that sort of thing, this is a perfectly adequate day-to-day commuter vehicle, especially considering the affordable starting price. And it does have some rather interesting, unique features to it. For example, even though my test car is the base front-wheel drive version, if you get an all-wheel drive model, you do get a rather sophisticated all-wheel drive system, which has a two-wheel drive mode, a four-wheel drive mode with a part-time system, and a four-wheel drive lock, where you can actually lock the power between the front and back wheels almost 50-50, just like a proper 4x4 SUV. And combine that with a pretty decent ground clearance, and you actually have a rather decent SUV that can handle winter duty no problem whatsoever. The other thing this vehicle has going for it is reliability. Because Mitsubishi has been producing it the same way for over 15 years, it's incredibly well sorted. There's really nothing sophisticated going on here, just a very simple, old school, naturally aspirated four-cylinder engine, no turbos, no engine start-stop or cylinder deactivation or direct fuel injection. Just a properly time-tested engine and CVT, which, if you maintain them properly, should be able to handle over 200,000 miles or 300,000 kilometers with ease. And for what it's worth, it is worth mentioning that, like other Mitsubishi models, this one is manufactured in Japan, which does of course help the build quality by quite a bit. So there are some pros and cons to this vehicle, and it's a very similar story when it comes to the interior. Now, don't expect very much from the interior of this vehicle because it is incredibly basic. The touchscreen looks at least 15 years old, super dated in terms of its graphics and user interface, and it doesn't have wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. You have to use that feature by connecting a cable, which I wasn't even able to do because this car only has USB-A ports, so my USB-C cable was no good. And aside from how basic this interior is, it's probably the cheapest feeling interior of really any car you can buy today. Absolutely everything is basic hard plastic, and you even have these old-fashioned cover plates to cover the push-button start and the all-wheel drive button if you don't have those options. Just to remind you that you bought a base model. But you know what? None of that really bothers me too much because there's something about the simple, old-school feel of this interior that's actually quite refreshing. The bright side is that everything is so incredibly easy to use. You have 3 simple dials for adjusting your heat and air conditioning. You have a proper mechanical gear selector and e-brake handle, and I even like the fact that you have a traditional key for starting the engine. And even though it is, of course, a very small SUV, it is pretty decent when it comes to interior space. There's plenty of room in the front seats, even the back seats for a pair of adults to sit comfortably for shorter trips. The cargo area is a decent size, and you do have a proper spare tire underneath the cargo floor, which is nice to see. I think the biggest thing this interior is really lacking, aside from a more modern touchscreen, is safety features, because it really doesn't come with much on the base model. You do have to move up to a higher trim just to even get some basic features like blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert, which is a bit disappointing. And the other thing is that this vehicle doesn't exactly have a great safety rating because it is so old. In fact, it probably has one of the lowest safety ratings from the IIHS as far as new SUVs go. Now, getting back to something that is a highlight with this vehicle, something that every Mitsubishi fan and the company wants you to remember, and that is the fact that you do get one of the longest new car warranties in the industry. This car comes with a 5-year comprehensive warranty and a 10-year 100,000 mile or 160,000 kilometer powertrain warranty, which is quite impressive, at least on paper. The issue with having a warranty so long is that, in a way, it is kind of marketing fluff because, again, Mitsubishi is not a big company, at least here in North America. They don't sell very many cars. They only have a 3-car lineup, and their dealership network is very small and quite poor, which does create servicing challenges depending on your location. Parts supply can sometimes be a problem, getting repairs done out of warranty. And their customer service is not exactly the best, which means that if you do have to deal with a major warranty claim, especially when this car is, say, 8 or 9 years old, good luck getting a replacement engine or transmission out of them. It's not going to be easy. In fact, I've heard stories that the state of Mitsubishi is so sad in the US that many Mitsubishi dealers, because they struggle to sell their own vehicles, have resorted to selling used cars, often luxury used cars, in order to make enough money, which is pretty sad. So these are some of the trade-offs that you have to face when buying a car from a small, somewhat troubled company like this. But again, I really cannot knock it that much because at the end of the day, it is very affordable in terms of pricing, and we really do need more affordable cars these days, especially ones that are well-made, reliable, cheap to maintain, and are built to last. And in many ways, that basically describes this vehicle right here. Now, the big question, would I recommend buying it? Well, given all the shortcomings this vehicle has, basically anything else you buy brand new is going to be superior, more modern, more sophisticated in basically every way. I think ultimately it is worth spending an extra $2,000 to $3,000 to buy a base model of a similar small SUV from another brand, especially something like either a Mazda CX-30, a Toyota Corolla Cross, or a Subaru Crosstrek. Even though they may be a little bit more money up front, they are much better in terms of performance, efficiency, technology, safety, a more comfortable driving experience with equally strong or better reliability, low cost of maintenance and ownership, and good resale value. This Mitsubishi basically makes sense for those who just want the cheapest, most basic brand new vehicle possible. You don't care about frills or gadgets whatsoever. You just want a simple, no nonsense, honest, reliable SUV that's built to last, but especially one that you can get a really good deal on. If you can get one of these in the basic form, loaded with dealer discounts, incentives, low interest rates like 0% financing, I think you can actually make a pretty strong case for it. And I would only consider buying this vehicle in base model form, either base front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. The higher trims are just simply not worth the extra money because then you start to overlap with the much better alternatives that you can buy instead. So that's my review of the Mitsubishi RVR Outlander Sport. Now, is this a vehicle you would consider buying? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the hype button. And if you're planning to purchase a vehicle and live in Ontario, know that OMVIC is the vehicle sales regulator responsible for administering and enforcing the rules that dealers must follow. To learn more about your consumer protection rights, visit omvic.ca. And if you need any additional car buying advice, recommendations, or help with getting a great deal on your next new car purchase, make sure to visit carhelpcan.com. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.